Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Friday edition of the Paranormal Portal, broadcast to you live on TFR Live, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, and also simulcast on YouTube. And you can check it out in any place you'd like. On YouTube, it's youtube.com/paranormalportal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm thrilled you're here. We've had an interesting week here at the Paranormal Portal Studios, and a lot of strangeness. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Just looking at all the indicators here. Let me know if you can't in one of the chats, whether you're on tfrlive.com/chat or if you're checking us out on YouTube. Let me know. Do I look nervous? Yes, I am nervous. The reason I'm nervous. Oh, great. Thanks, Regular. The reason I'm nervous is because last Wednesday, oh my God. All right. Doing the show, I've experienced a lot of weirdness doing the show, and I swear to God, sometimes it is haunted. I mean, just unbelievable things have happened during the course of the show. But last Wednesday was by far the highest strangeness I've ever experienced in my broadcasting career. I was sitting down. I felt fine all day. I was getting all ready for the show. I was getting all geared up. Things were great, and suddenly it came time to do the show. I sat down and did the intro, and suddenly it was just like I got pounded by what I can only describe as waves of energy. It wasn't like a bad feeling, not like a bad presence, but it was just like I just got pounded. I'm looking at the screen, my vision is dimming, it's going into a tunnel, my ears are kind of like shutting down. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't. I'm fainting. I felt like I was fainting. It was just the most unbelievable thing, and so, I I went to break right after that here on the show. I just went, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this is very unprecedented for the Paranormal Portal, but I need to do something right away. Put it on break. I went outside, and this is only being simulcast on YouTube. Went outside, stood in the cold air, grabbed handfuls of snow and rubbed my face in the snow and just trying to do anything to snap back. I was just like, what the hell is going on? This is really bizarre. This is very strange. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what the hell's going on here. And I was just beside myself. But I came back in, felt a little better, sat down, and again, everything just started boom, boom. And I was just beside myself. And then Don was affected as well because everything he touched broke. It was, it was like his microphone quit. So he went back to try to get another microphone out of my case. And he's digging back there and knocked over the projector, broke the thumb drive. I mean, it was just one thing after another after another. His microphone popped back for a while, was fine, and then failed again. He hooked up another one, and it was like, oh my God. And we tried to relaunch the stream after about a half hour of this hijinks of strangeness. And these waves just kept washing over me. And I'm like, I can't focus. I can't even like pay attention. I was just gone, like on a very emotional place or a very spiritual place. I don't know what the hell it was, but I was just out of it. And so, no, I did before, you're right, Vaughn, but not this time. I can't blame it on anything. But I ended up like going down, sitting on the couch and all that stuff and trying to just do the normal stuff. And I'm still feeling these waves wash over me. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what the hell's going on. So I live about a block away from the ER. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go over there. I went over there. They ran test after test after test on me, and they drew about a bucket of blood from me and checked, had me wired, had me, blood pressures, oxygen, everything. And I know they were probably thinking that I was some kind of, goofball that was messing around and came in and, from having too much of something, because they did screen after screen of my blood. And finally they, at the end of the night, they just said, we're really not sure what's going on with you. You're everything looks fine. So, I came home, and, the next day, was it Thursday? Yeah. Yesterday, I got a hold of Deb and talked to her. I'm like, Deb, what the hell's going on? This was so strange. And she said that, for her, and for those of you that don't know, Deb is the psychic that we use here on the show. She is the Paranormal Portal psychic. And she said, I usually do a lot of readings and stuff around the full moon. You know that. And I'm like, yeah. And it had occurred to me that she hadn't, talked about being on the show. especially with 2 moons. I figured she'd have a double billing in January or something, but she said no. She said, I knew better than to mess with this one. She said it was just way strange energy on this moon, and she said, I think that's what you were feeling. And I don't know what to chalk it up to, ladies and gentlemen, but it was by far one of the strangest experiences of my life. And but I'm fine. I'm good now. I'm good to go. And yesterday I was pretty good too. So whatever that energy was, it seems to have dissipated or reprogrammed my DNA, however that works. But I seem to be handling it better now if it's still here. So that's the story, guys. So it was very strange night. But here I am. It's Friday night. Welcome to the weekend. You've made it. You're here. And thanks for all the notes of concern. I appreciate that. I'm thrilled to say nothing's wrong. I'm okay. But it was definitely a weird night. So that was my Wednesday night. And take it or leave it, that's what happened. So we are here. And if you'd like to be a part of the Paranormal Portal, of course, we have the phone lines are always open. The call-in number for the portal is 213-233-3998. Again, 213-233-3998. It's also, I got to get this 800 number here. It's also 833-TFR Live, which is 833-837-5423. Again, 833-837-5423. So if you had any weird experiences with this second moon going on in January, let me know. I'm seeing in the chat room some people are talking about they've had weird experiences too. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. But literally, they said there is nothing wrong with me in the ER. So I'm apparently doing great. I hope so anyway. But I feel great now. I feel normal. Everything's good to go. So, but you guys have been wonderful sending me messages on Facebook like, you okay? We're worried about you. And that's wonderful. I love you all dearly for that. But yeah, I'm fine. So tonight, I'm going to, I had a show all lined up for Wednesday, and obviously we never really got off the ground with that. So I'm going to just redo that show for tonight, which was kind of nice. It's like studying for the test ahead of time, and then, you're all ready for when the test really occurs. So I just had something under my ring. That was weird. But that is the night shift. Many people in many professions have to work at nights, and I used to work the graveyard shift myself, and I absolutely kind of loved it. I mean, I really did. I didn't mind staying up late and sleeping during the day, but there's something about the nighttime that makes us feel like we're vulnerable, and this is basically what I remember saying on Wednesday before the room closed in on me. But it's like we're genetically programmed to live, be active during the day, and it's unusual behavior, I think, naturally for us to want to do things at night. But it's our ability to improvise and to invent that makes it possible for us to be active around the clock. Like nowadays, of course, we have modern conveniences, light switches, etc. Back in the day, we had torches, we could build fire. And so we were able to create illumination even though we weren't naturally gifted with night vision and stuff. Maybe our ancestors were better at it, but we certainly aren't. So, but whatever it is about the night, it's certainly not, I mean, paranormal activity is not relegated to night. There's nothing magical about the night that would, make things more probable to happen over the daytime. In fact, a lot of, as Duncan was saying, Duncan Campbell, who was on the show last weekend, he was saying that most of the apparitions that he's heard of and seen reported happen during the daytime. And that's a great correlation and a great point. But I know some would say, no, the lunar cycle, the moon magnifies energy, and that's possible. I don't know. I mean, we're speaking to things that I'm perfectly not qualified to speak with any authority on, but maybe there is something about the lunar cycles and the moon creating a different energetic field for certain paranormal activity. But it can happen when it happens. There is no schedule for paranormal activity to happen. So it happens when it happens, but it's when things happen at night that I think we're already feeling we're in a state of vulnerability because, we're limited to what we can see by our fake illumination. So we already feel like our world is shrunk. But then when that shrunk world turns on its head, we don't know how to process that. So tonight's show is going to be themed around those kind of stories and those kind of experiences. And a lot of these stories are really quick and short. really pain-free. So we'll go through these and see what we can find. But I just wanted to see. Yes, Mr. Longbeard's in the chat as well. Hey, Don. Things seem to be working here in the studio, brother. So we got that going for us. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to point your attention to the screen behind me. I've been working on a new presentation graphic. It's a lot of the same stuff you've seen before, but I put the Paranormal Portal logo right dead in the center of it. So just saying, a little pat on the back, but a little me party. So anyway, let's get into these night shift stories and see what you guys think. And again, if you've had a story of your own, please let me know. I'm just checking the call board. It is still wide open, so we are good to go here. The ghost children kept running around making noise. And again, if you were tuned in on Wednesday for that little bit of a segment that we did do a show, I have deleted that stream, so don't go checking YouTube looking for the mayhem, because maybe I should have kept it, but just for reference, when we do a landmark show, we could refer back to it. Oh, Don, remember this show? Yeah. But I did delete it. I was just like, I don't even want to watch this again. I don't want it being out there representing us, because it was such a comedy of errors. So the first one, again, is the ghost children kept running around making noise. My mother used to work in a subacute center as a night shift nurse. She said one of the ladies kept calling her and told her to shut the kids up because they're running around and being loud, preventing her from falling asleep. Of course, there were no kids. My mom just went along with it a few times, and after working there 10 plus years, she said there's one wing in the building where the patients all see children running around and making noise, keeping them up in the middle of the night every once in a while. And the conversation that happened on Wednesday was Don brought up a good point about, most buildings have been repurposed several times. If they're older buildings, they've been many things. So it's possible this was an orphanage at some time, or a poor house, or, back in the day during the Depression, they had poor farms or whatever set up. And so, and I'm not laughing because it's funny, but it's a funny name, poor farm. It's like you're growing poor there or something. But anyway, so it's possible that the building has a history for that, but that does almost sound very residual to me, because it's a very short story and the person doesn't say, but with the two main types of haunting, which are intelligent and residual, this would seem to be residual activity, where it's like, oh, there's kids running around and laughing. Well, if they're not interacting with the people, then it doesn't seem to be intelligent. But it may be, or it may not be. I guess it would require more information to be sure, but it does sound residual to me. Something yanked on the door and slammed it shut. I work in a big old psychiatric hospital. One night I was pulled upstairs to work on a detox unit halfway through my shift. Someone on staff has to go room to room and check on all the patients every 15 minutes to make sure they're breathing, not in distress, etc. I'd just gotten on the unit and wasn't sure offhand which rooms were occupied, so I just walked by all of them. One room had the bedroom lights off, but the bathroom lights were on, and the bathroom door was cracked open just slightly. I knocked and gripped the doorknob to open it. Something yanked on the door and slammed it shut. I heard something banging in the bathroom wall, like someone was punching it. I opened the door, and no one was in there. One of the techs who had been there for 20 plus years says she knows at least one person died in that room a number of years ago. I'm not in the least bit superstitious, or prone to believing in the supernatural forces, but screw that floor. The next one is, I heard the toilets flush and the sink turn on when no one was there. I worked at this place a long time ago, and I'd stay and clean up the main area every day. Vacuum, take out the trash, etc. I was usually the last one to leave. As I was vacuuming, I hear one of the toilets flush, and then the sink. I wait, and nobody came. I'm supposed to be the only one there, and I went and checked out the bathroom, but there was nobody there. Then it happened again. Same thing. Toilet flushed, and the water turned on. One of many experiences there. Yeah, that's horrible. I mean, to be the only person in this place that's not your home. I mean, you may have to work there, but every place feels different when after all the crowds go home, all the people go home. there's this like emptiness, and then the more subtle energies become so much more apparent. So I don't know. A blue misty figure walked around during the night. Worked night shift in the treatment center. We had cameras around every corner. Nothing was out of our vision. Blue misty figure would walk the grounds every once in a while at night. I would go out there and there'd be nothing. But on camera, I can't say that word, this bastard would just walk around all night. Nothing evil, bad, or anything. But this bastard would just walk around like he owned the place. They tend to do that. Some of them might think they actually do. Or maybe they did. We saw 6 sets of eyes hidden inside of the woods, Used to do a canine security for many years. I don't particularly believe in the paranormal stuff, but I did get the heebie-jeebies a couple of times. There was this one site I used to patrol with my dog a few nights a week. It was an old historical farmhouse. From the main road, there was about a kilometer walk down a beat-up old dirt road with woods for a couple of 100 meters on either side. More of a path nowadays than a road. People talk of it being haunted, if you believe in that kind of thing. One night it was really dark out. Can't remember if it was overcast or if there was no moon that night, but it was black. About 2/3 of the way to the farmhouse, my dog starts acting a little weird. I can feel him getting tense through the leash. He starts to let out really low growls every other step, and I can see his ears are twitching as my light swings back and forth. It's dark, but I'm sure his hackles are up. Maybe 100 meters or so after, I start noticing him wigging out. I had to reread that. I'm like, what? Wigging out is the word. He surfs out in front of me, which he only does if there's a perceived threat. He stays about 2 meters in front of me for a little bit, and then just stops and starts growling at the darkness. Of course, I am scanning with my light, but can't see anything. After years of working with Brew, I've learned to trust him like I trust no person. During one of my scans, I see about 6 sets of eyes reflecting my light in the woods. I am certain it was coyotes, but damned if I didn't get the wicked shivers up and down. Brew and I retreated and went back to the car. Wrote it up as a clear patrol, supernatural or not. I'm not letting my partner scrap it out with a half a dozen ghost coyotes. I don't know why that's on this list then. If it's coyotes, I don't know where he comes up with ghost coyotes, but it could be. Very strange though. And definitely animals are, as we've talked about many times, animals will perceive that energy shift long before we will. They're just so tuned into that natural energy field. And I guess I didn't know this, but dogs apparently have like a very limited field of vision. They don't get detailed vision until it's like close to them. So they may see motion, and they may smell it, they may hear it far along away, but they only see like a vague motion in a distance, and they don't get details until it gets much closer. So perhaps that's something to do with it too, but they do see better in the dark than we do, I think. Excuse me. Oh, Ken, did you ever get that video or the video of it done? If you do, let me know. Oh, you did. I guess Ken, one of our listeners, he's in the TFR chat room. He has created a video. I think that's right. Created a video of a story that we read of his last week, I think it was last week on last Friday's show, I believe. But he's now made a video of it, and they're a lot of fun to watch because you read the stories and he like draws these pictures to illustrate the scenes that I'm reading of in the story. So it's really fun to check them out. But I hope that's what you did, Ken. I want to check that out. So please email me or message me on Facebook with that link so I can check it out directly, if you would, please. The elevator kept opening and slamming shut on its own. Wait a minute. No, hold on. I think this is the one that Don read. Yeah. That's the one that Don read from a whole different site before, and I know I've read that one before on the show. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I was all set here, but I guess I wasn't. A ghost boy appeared inside of our museum. So I would have reread that three times. Don reread it last on Wednesday, and I know I read it on a show before that. So I just hope I'm not repeating this whole list from another show, but I hope not, ladies and gentlemen. If I am, I do apologize. Again, I do my best to vet these and not read the same articles over and over, but I do know that these stories tend to get repeated across paranormal groups, and so I do apologize if some of these stories are repeats for you. I don't believe I read this list before, but if I have, let me know or throw something at the screen. Send me a private message on Facebook, and I'll find something else to read if that's the case. I think these are new, though, but I'm going to read. I know the last one we've read before, so I'm going to read the next one. A ghost boy appeared inside of our museum. I worked in a museum that was housed in an old building downtown. It was once a vaudeville theater and used car lot, then it sat in disrepair for years before it was bought and remodeled. We had a lot of weird occurrences there. I'm a total skeptic, but there were some things I just couldn't find good explanations for. After closing the museum for the evening shift, we would be in the lobby counting down the cash drawers, closing the gift shop, and etc., and many times we'd hear running. I know this one sounds familiar too. Oh my God. Let's see. We got 4 minutes till the break. I don't know if I can read that one. I'll just finish it. They'd be counting down the cash, closing the gift shop, etc. And many times we'd hear running footsteps on the floor above us. And it was certain there was no one up there. We'd close for the night, come in the next morning to open, go around and unlock exhibits, etc., and things would be displaced. Clothes strewn all over, things knocked over, doors open that shouldn't have been. I know they weren't like that the night before because I would be the one who went around and closing it up. The place was just kind of creepy. We all felt it. There were times when you would just felt uneasy for no good reason. The elevator was very active, traveling between levels with no one in it, for which could have been electrical, but still added to the creepiness factor, especially when it was dark and you could hear it going from floor to floor. Ding, ding. The biggest thing that happened, which I still struggle with because I have a hard time believing it, if I had been alone, I would have written it off as imagining things, but I wasn't alone, and they saw it too. We were standing on the second floor landing, in front of a stairs that led up to the third floor. The museum was closed, all visitors were gone, and as we were standing there chatting, this little boy in a red shirt, excuse me, I'm not hitting puberty, that was just a frog. Little boy in a red shirt came running around the corner where the elevator was, and then ran up the stairs to the third floor. It was one of those, did you see that? Yes, did you see that? We agreed we had both seen it, and our first thought was that we had maybe missed a visitor. It wasn't a big place, and it was 30 minutes after the doors were locked. There was only one way up to the third floor and one way down. It was someone that, if someone was there, we couldn't have missed him. We went up and looked, and of course, there was no one there. And from then on, whenever we heard weird things happen, we'd say, it was the boy in the red shirt. Very strange. This one is very short, so I'll read this one quickly. This is the ghost of a little girl appeared in our bakery. I work in a restaurant, and all the bakery people who stay late talk about the ghost of a little girl. But I didn't know this when I started. This one sounds familiar too. Jesus. It was the middle of the day, but we were slow, so I was doing prep work by myself in the kitchen. I was at the prep table, kind of zoning out, listening to the distant music when I feel someone right next to me. Like a sudden presence. Then, I swear to God, I heard in a little girl's voice the most innocent, "Hi, Josh," my name. "How are you?" I even felt her breath. It was so real and vivid, but then when I turned around, there was no one there. I started telling people about it and found out lots of coworkers who heard the same voice. From everyone's stories, she, the ghost girl, seems really nice, but it sent chills down my spine. Never trust a ghost girl. I'm not a big believer in ghost girls, ghost boys or girls for that matter, but I think that there are things that appear as children because, it's a segue to an attachment, or, maybe it's less nefarious than that, but But I just don't know. I just can't imagine little innocent children left to wander the world because they might have experienced some tragedy. But I can't say I know it all, but that's just my belief. So, Started today, Brent. Well, I'm sorry, Drone. I'm not following what you're talking about. One gentleman in our chat, Drone, are you talking about working out? Congratulations. Ghost girls. No, I can't. Oh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to go to break here. So don't go away. We'll be right back for more of the Paranormal Portal and hopefully some new stories that I dig up between now and then. What do you do? This is Showbiz. All right, don't go away, guys. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second half hour of tonight's show. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're doing great out there, and it is Friday, so what could be wrong with that? You made it to the weekend. It's over. Just relax. Turn down the lights, light a few candles, as I've done here in the studios, and exercise all your demons or whatever it is. But enjoy the show. And if you would like to call-in board is always open here on the portal. If you've got something of your own you'd like to share, the call-in number is 213-233-3998. Again, 213-233-3998. If you're in the UK, it's 44203-393-2871. Again, 44203-393-2871. So there's always a way to get in touch. And if you're joining us on YouTube, then please, thank you so much for being here, and thanks for watching the live stream. That's really cool. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, I hope you guys will check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/paranormal portal, and please subscribe and like and click the little bell button, because that'll notify you anytime we launch another stream here on the Paranormal Portal. And so it'll just ensure you have a chance to catch the action as it unfolds. And just got a new subscriber, D Swinger. Nice. And Sylvie Nekova. Thank you guys for subscribing. And Emily McAnally. Okay. Fantastic. Those are the 3 latest subscribers. So just thrilled you guys are here to be a part of it. And, shout out if you're here. I haven't been able to watch the chats, and that's the liability of doing this alone on Friday night, is that I can't really see everybody that's chatting and talking. T-Fetch, Tanner Chop, Vaughn Honthorse are in the chat room, along with Charlie, the rookie prepper, and I'm sure, let's see, Molly's here, Regla's here. Alyssa Brittany is in the chat. There's all kinds of you in there. D Swinger. Fantastic, guys. Thanks for being in here, and thanks for being a part of the show. If I missed you, I am sorry, but just give me a shout out in the chat room, and I will try to catch your name and give you a shout out as well, because I think you deserve recognition for just being here. And in the TFR live chat room, we got Don Longbeard, Don's 2U2, Drone Free Zone, Galactic Pixie, Illuminacanati, Microcosm, Jimmy Jean. Jimmy Jean is the host of Into the Microcosm, and his show will follow us tonight on TFR Live, iHeart, and Tune In. So if you're listening from there, stick around for Jimmy Jean. He's always got an eclectic show that's full of fantastic music and excellent conversation. Regular girls over there too. Rockin' Rio, Undaunted, Who Said They Could, To Be Me is in there. And Nemo 289V. And you guys are in the TFR live chat room. So thanks, guys, for being here and being a part of it. It just makes me complete. I should probably wear my glasses up here. I usually don't need them too much, but when I'm trying to see multiple screens, I don't know. Could be the anxiety. You never know. But as far as I know, I'm in good health. So for the most part, I don't know. All right. So I did keep digging. And I think rather than continue to read stories that I believe I've read before, I'm going to jump over to a different article. The first one that I want to check out with you guys is the tail end of a list that I had been reading on several shows prior, but never got it finished. And so these are ghostly encounters as well. They're not necessarily on the night shift, but always ghostly encounters. So my ex had a terrible nightmare before her miscarriage is the name of this one. My ex had a fever of 105.3 and woke up during the night. She was looking out the window on the second floor talking to someone. I woke up a few times but fell right back asleep. I woke up after she started screaming, "Please, please don't hurt him, please." Gave her a kiss on the neck and hugged her and asked her to come back to bed with me. Looked out the window as 2 hands slid down the glass and pulled away. Spent hours holding her as she cried and begged whatever was outside the window on the second floor, which I could not see. She had a miscarriage the next morning and had no idea what I was talking about. Ended up breaking up with her after she had an extreme breakdown. Apparently, she was schizophrenic. Still doesn't change what I saw and heard that night. Maybe I am crazy too. Also babysat my nephew and walked past his room in time to hear him say, "I love you, Lyle," into the corner of his bed, which was my great-grandpa's name, who died 23 years before my nephew was born, and never talked about because he was an abusive drunk. Oh, well. I suppose that wouldn't make him real happy topic of conversation. I saw a stranger in a suit walk through my house. When I was younger, I was watching TV and when in the corner of my eye I saw something move. I turned to look and I saw a man in a plaid suit walk by a doorway. I flipped the hell out and ran to my mom and told her what I saw. She looked at me funny and said, "Are you joking? Did you hear me talking to Grandma earlier?" I told her I was serious and that I had not heard her conversation. And she told me the day before she was standing at her vanity and she asked my dad a question about something as he was standing at his dresser behind her, or so she thought. When he didn't respond, she turned around to see the back of a man in a plaid suit. Ooh, plaid suits, though. Wow. Plaid suits are paranormal all by themselves. Years later, the original owner's children stopped at our garage sale. We learned their father had died in the house. My mom, half joking, asked if he owned a plaid suit. Without batting an eye, his son said his favorite suit was plaid. Chills were had. See, now again, though, that doesn't sound like a bad haunting. That's just somebody hanging out. And for some reason, I don't know why they would choose to hang out. But maybe he couldn't quite move on yet. Maybe he had things to work through. But it's not a malevolent haunting. It's just a presence. And I think a lot of areas in our world are occupied with a presence. And whether that presence was a person before or whether it's just some other kind of energy, I don't know. It can vary, I guess, but it amazes me that so many people that have passed have not moved on, that for some reason, they're occupying a house or they're occupying a workshop or they're occupying a corner next to a dining room table and some other weird things like that. It's like, my God, if that's your eternity, I'm really sorry, because that's a crappy deal. So I don't know what the next life offers for sure, but I'm sure hoping that I'm not going to be stuck in the corner of a dining room somewhere for eternity. I don't understand that at all. That's just so strange. But, if people are earthbound for whatever reason, I can't begin to comprehend, or what they may have went through or are still trying to process. I don't know. But to be stuck watching somebody's family live their life would be, well, it might be entertaining. I don't know. You never know. We saw a skinwalker in the park is the next one. Oh, me and a couple of friends saw what can most be described, that's what it says, can most be described as a skinwalker or shapeshifter. It was 4 of us, 11-year-olds each at the time. We were at a park, and a long story short, we were running after what we thought was a small child. So this dark, shadowy figure is keeping ahead of us while we chase after it, and when it gets to a wall at the end of the park, it changes from black to white, gets on all fours, leaps up the tree like a cat, and jumps over the wall. Very spooky. Me and my friends still talk about it when we want to creep each other out. That's, there are legends upon legends upon legends in lore around the world, and this isn't just relegated only to Native American lore. There's lore all around the world of shape-shifting beings. And is it possible? Is it possible that within our reality, or at least bordering our reality, can exist another universe or dimension of creatures that aren't bound to the same physical laws that we are? I mean, is that possible? Could they transform their very shape and their very characteristics to mold into another form. Is that possible? And I think it must be. I think there must be some reality here, because this is not just an account or a series of a bunch of mass delusions or even isolated delusions that have a characteristic similarity. It would seem that there are things out there that we just can't quite wrap our heads around, and not to say that they are exactly what is described in the lore, but I believe that the lore is spawned from people having encounters they can't explain, and so they draw a narrative around it, and perhaps they've observed it to the point of being able to create a story about it that maybe encompasses some of the behaviors that they've observed, or many people have observed and put together, whether it's from a tribal culture. Maybe generations of the tribe witnessed things and were able to put together these stories of a lore, gave it a reality, maybe gave it a personality. I don't know. But I believe that the universal reality, and I don't believe it's just this understanding that we have. I think the universal reality is multidimensional and multi-realities. I believe that in the scope of the universal reality, that there pretty much anything is possible. And if it can exist, then it probably does in some way, some fashion, some manner. Now, could these beings just be energetic? Are they actually in physical form, or do they just appear that way? And they're actually possibly energetic beings, and therefore can easily change their shape and their characteristics because they're not bound to the same conventional physical physics that we are. I don't know. It's just these things. This is why I'm so passionate about the paranormal. Is these questions they may seem, a lot of these stories on the surface might seem like just delusional fascinations of a disturbed mind. But the fact that so many people from so many walks of life are experiencing so much dynamic phenomenon, and again, these stories transcend economic income. They transcend, whether somebody's on chemicals or where they're not, whether they have, what their religious background is. I mean, these stories transcend all of those things, and they pop up in all these other cultures. So this is a reality that seems to share our universal reality. And what does it mean? I don't know, but I don't know. Reality is just so much more dynamic than we can possibly imagine. My grandparents visited me in a dream. My grandparents used to go to Disney World every year, usually around Christmas. I planned to go with them one year, but in the fall, my grandfather passed. I told my grandma I would still go with her. When I was at Disney World sleeping one night, I had a dream that I was with my grandpa, just hugging him, crying and telling him I missed him. He told me everything was okay. When I awoke, I had been crying. Pretty cool. That is pretty cool. And just because something had happened in a dream doesn't mean that it was any less real than if it was manifested in the room. I think that dream reality has as much impact as our physical reality. And I don't know that our brains differentiate anyway on a very fundamental level, because if something happens in the dream state, the old legend, if you die in your dream, you're going to die when you're in real life. Well, I can tell you that's not true, because I've died several times in my dreams. Well, I mean, for me, it's not true. And maybe it's because I didn't reach that level of shock, or maybe there was a part of me that knew I was sleeping, and so I wasn't completely emotionally invested in whatever's going on. I don't know. But I have experienced death in many of my dreams, and I woke up, so that must not be true. But I think that our brain does not differentiate between the two, that each reality is as poignant and real as the other, as far as maybe our subconscious state is concerned, or however you choose to define this. But energy follows intention either way. So the next one is, we heard phantom noises in the park. I really don't believe in many paranormal things, but one day I was walking through our local park with my best friend. We were talking about usual stuff, and I hear a shaking sound behind us. I don't really care and continue to ignore it. After a few steps further, the sound gets louder, and I finally turn around to see what's going on. I don't see anything and decide to proceed in my conversation. Suddenly, I feel 2 slight taps on my left shoulder. I turn around with the most terrified look on my face. Nobody there. I look to the right, to my friend, and ask if he had seen anything. He answers in a cold and dark voice, "Run." Until this day, I don't know what happened in the park. My friend says he didn't see anybody, but he only heard some noises. Running is always a good idea. When in doubt, run. This next article I'm going to pull stories from here for you guys tonight is, it is 25 people on the illogical paranormal experience they still can't find an explanation for. You got to love those. And that's one of the reasons I love paranormal experiences so much, is because they do cause people to question. They cause people to re-examine reality. They cause people to look deeper. Maybe it wakes people up to a more profound universal reality. I don't know. But I just love the fact that, I love it especially when it happens to skeptics. To me, that's about the most brilliant thing ever. Yes, Tanner. Tanner's talking to me in chat. What do you got, Tanner? Oh, okay. Yeah, he's talking about could send me an email. And if you want to email me, Tanner, please do. It's the email for the show is paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your stories, and I'll be happy to share them on the show if you're okay with that, or if you don't want to be named or whatever. If you want to keep your identity secret, that's fine too. Many people have written into the show through the lifetime of the show. Not as many as I'd like, but it does happen, and I'm always thrilled to read your guys' accounts, because your accounts are so much more profound because they're you. They're your stories. They're not filtered through some author that may be writing in a blog somewhere in cyberspace and maybe embellishing. And I'm here to tell you, and I've said this many times in the past, that I've learned more about paranormal phenomena by reading pretty direct accounts from either from the people or they had written. And I've, because your experience may shed light on some behavioral, nuance that nobody's ever mentioned before. Maybe you saw something that no one else saw or has seen or put something together. I don't know. But everybody's stories help to increase the narrative of a paranormal phenomena. So I love it when you guys send in your stories. All right. Tanner's going to get it this week. Outstanding. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate that. All right. So where was I? I just happened to check the chat. I'm glad I did. I'm glad you asked. And any of you guys out there listening, please, email me your accounts, email me your stories. If you don't want to be on the air, if that's just not your thing, or you don't feel comfortable talking about what's going on or what has gone on for you, that's no problem at all. Just email paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to share your stories for you. It's just that, in fact, when I came up with the concept for the show, my idea was that, it would have this engaged listener base that would, share their occurrences, share their encounters, because I'm a Bigfoot enthusiast as well. And I've listened to dozens of different podcasts and YouTube shows that go over people's accounts, and people participate in this. For example, Sasquatch Chronicles, which is hosted by a gentleman named Wes Germer, is a great show where people have been participating in his show for years, sending in their stories, sending in their encounters. He does interview them or read them, either way, and I think that's great, because some people just don't want to talk on the radio. They don't want to be put on the spot to explain their occurrence, or maybe they feel too nervous and feel they'll omit specific details, but writing it down is just fine. But yeah, you guys create this show all the time, and not only the growing success of the show has been created by you guys, but the content has certainly been augmented, and you guys have brought a whole another level to than I ever could have to this show. So every bit of participation is absolutely appreciated. So the first story, it caused me to bleed. Yeah, an invisible spirit caused me to bleed. Sorry, I was reading and talking to myself and out loud, as it turned out. I thought that was just in my head. All right, an invisible spirit caused me to bleed. Ooh, I just realized we don't have the spooky music on. I knew something was missing. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I want to do this. I'm going to have to keep messing with the levels. That's fine. What the hell? Kind of adds to the ambiance. Let me know if that's too loud, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's about right. Okay, so a few weeks ago, I was sitting at my desk, and in my university room. We think our flat's haunted because weird stuff happens every so often. Things disappear, there's noises when nobody's in, stuff like that. Suddenly I get a sharp pain in my leg, as if I'd been stabbed. I look down and there's nothing there, and absolutely nothing that could have caused it. So I carry on with my work. Next time I look down, there's a trail of blood going from just above my ankle and trickling down my foot. No explanation. I just cleaned off the blood and bandaged it up, and it's healed now. But I still have no idea how I got the wound. It literally sprang up from nowhere. That's horrible. There's many people that believe that spirits can't hurt you. And I don't know. I think that they can. It's just that most wouldn't hurt you. That's not what they're after. And I think for some of them they can't unless you somehow give them permission. But I think that, it's like walking down the street and saying, well, those guys over there can't hurt me. Well, they can if they chose to. But I don't know, if they can make a cabinet door open, they can probably cut you somehow or hurt you somehow or throw you up against a wall. Granted, it's a different mass and different energy level required, but the idea is that, don't say can't, but then again, I don't know what the story of this person is, and I don't know. I can only hypothesize. I don't know the person. I don't know the details. I don't know what could have happened that they didn't report. I don't know, but I mean, plenty of people have claimed to have been assaulted by ghosts. That's not a rare phenomenon by any measure. It's not common, but it's not necessarily rare either. The next one is her tarot cards were too terrifying to read. Back in my late teens, I was teaching... I got 2 minutes left. Yeah, I can get this. Back in my late teens, I was teaching myself to read tarot cards. So I would do a few free readings for friends and family at the time for practice. So I'm at a family barbecue and my best friends at my boyfriend's house, and we're all hanging out and chilling when they asked me to get out my cards. So I do a fairly boring reading for my boyfriend's mom, and my boyfriend's sister-in-law decides she wants to be next. So I shift over to be across the table from her and set her to shuffling the cards. I throw the cards in the standard Celtic cross layout. Darkest spread I've ever seen in my life. Almost all major arcana cards, all showing their more negative aspects. I'm sitting there looking at these cards that are basically saying this person is not good, and my brain is going a mile a minute trying to figure out what the hell I'm looking at. Deep, wolfish male voice I've never heard before or since says right into my ear, "Tell her nothing." Not threatening, just giving very clear instruction. I told her I couldn't tell her anything, gathered up the cards and got out of there like my butt was on fire. A few weeks later, I'm over again and it came up. I've never told them about the voice. Turns out she's had 2 palmists and 3 astrologers react the same way to divination requests. Some people are just broken, ladies and gentlemen. I guess that definitely corroborates the reading, for sure. Yes, tarot cards. Now, some people are worried about tarot cards and stuff, but they're just an oracle, ladies and gentlemen, and they're primarily they just help the person tune a psychic power, in my opinion, because the cards, of course, are give a decent explanation, and by the person shuffling them, they're charging it with their energy. But it's up to the reader to really interpret what those messages mean and how they relate. And I really think that a lot of tarot readers start out, they're being really specific about what the cards say and, all that. But after a while, the readers tend to just go more with their intuition and use the cards as a guide. Well, we'll be back in a couple minutes here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away. We'll be back for the second hour of the show.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. Just make sure that you're well fed.
Is Truth Frequency Radio.
This looks extraordinarily bad.
They linger in a perpetual dream state, a nightmare from which they cannot wake. I can't see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second hour of the Paranormal Portal. I'm still your host, Brent Thomas. You're still stuck with me. Thanks for the feedback, you guys, in the YouTube chat. I appreciate that. It's great. And Tanner, I'm looking forward to seeing your email. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. But thank you all for all the support that you've been giving the show. It's been pretty amazing. And I love this chat. I'm kind of getting it figured out here, how to look at both chats. But it's hard when I'm actually reading the articles too. So it'll be a little easier. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night, which is what I was going to mention when Don joins us. Don Longbeard is my co-host on Saturday nights and on a Wednesday stream as well. We'll see how Don's microphone is working. I haven't tested it, so I guess I can do that tomorrow before the show and make sure everything's functional again after the Wednesday blow up, whether it was the moon rays or moon waves or what the hell was going on. But whatever it is, it had me all flummoxed for sure. So, but this is it's always an adventure here on the portal. You just never know. And if you've been listening to us for a long time, you know that the strangest crap happens. And I don't know why. I don't know, what exactly is going on. I mean, there's been problems that defy logic. And so that's why I say it's the only paranormal show in the world that's actually haunted. So we got that going for us, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, to investigate, we just sit around the studio and wait for stuff to happen. Just kidding. I don't know. I mean, there could be very logical explanations for all of it, but I'm here to tell you the variety of problems we've experienced doing this show and the unique things we've experienced doing the show have been, unbelievable. So let's continue on in our stories of ghostly encounters and late night ghost encounters and the night shift ghost encounters. And the next one is the door completely vanished from my room, or from the room rather. My brother reminded me of this the other day. When we were growing up, we were best friends. Ooh, wait a minute. Spooky music. Gotta resettle the fader there and turn it back on. Not my best DJing, ladies and gentlemen, but you get what you pay for here on the portal, and so far this is still free. The door completely vanished from my room, or from the room. My brother reminded me of this the other day. When we were growing up, we were best friends, and with a brother and sister pair who were our exact ages, so we spent all of our time with them and at their house. Their house was big. It even had a movie theater in the basement. My brother and I slept over often, and the four of us usually slept in the basement in the theater since it had a huge sunken couch that fit all of us. Around the time I was about 9 or so, my brother was older, so he remembers it better. Our friends were really excited to have us over because they had gotten a few couch cushions in the crowd room, so it would be like camping. Brother and I both had no idea what they meant. We knew every inch of their house, so we went to see this room. In their basement around the corner from the theater, there was a short door. So short that we had to crawl through to get in. Brother and I had never seen this door before. even though we had practically grown up in this house. We questioned it, but neither of us remember the answer they gave other than they just found it. They were rich, so I guess we assumed it was a new construction. Anyway, we slept on the couch cushions in that short room that night, and neither my brother and I can remember anything remarkable about it. And we slept in the theater again after that night. The remarkable thing happened a few years later. It was my friend's 14th or so birthday, and I was keeping her busy while her brother was hiding her present, presumably in the crawl room. At the end of her birthday party, he brought up the crawl room. He said something like, "You remember going in and out of there a few times, right?" I said yes. He looked confused and asked me to show him where I remember the door being. We go into the basement, and lo and behold, there is no door, not even an outline where it would have been sealed. My brother kicks the wall, and it's solid cement. We ask our friend's parents and they have no idea. They've never done construction down there, and there is no room other than the theater in the basement. I was in this room, in the basement, all night. We sat on cushions in there and brought a small TV with Nintendo. We went in and out for a solid night. We all remember it. After our friends moved, the new neighbors had us over, and my brother and I went to the basement with fresh eyes of logical adults. Still nothing. No door. And we realized that there would have been virtually no room for us to sit comfortably because the basement only extends about 4 feet past the edge of the house. The room would have been under our friend's lawn. I know it's not outright scary, but I think it falls into the category of paranormal because it's just baffling. That is really baffling. And I really believe, and many times on the show I've said this, that I believe that there are dimensions upon dimensions upon dimensions, and then if you get into any of those theories, then is it therefore possible that they overlap and that one bleeds into another? So perhaps in another dimensional reality, this room exists, and they were able for a very brief time to gain access to this room that didn't exist before and didn't exist after, but it existed during that time. And is that a symptom, or does that point to the possibility of overlapping dimensional realities? And I don't know. I mean, it's things like that, and I don't recall a specific one, but I know that as I was reading that, I had something from my childhood that was kind of similar, but I don't remember the specifics. I'll have to think on that to find out where that thought came from. But I really believe that we do, and maybe it's us that travel through the dimensional realities. Maybe it's us that can phase into different dimensional realities, and maybe that explains why the Mandela effect is such a thing, because with us we have our memories, and sometimes those memories don't exist in the same way in these other dimensions as we move through them. And is that what time is? Is it just a changing in vibration? And as the vibration changes, do we go from dimension to dimension to dimension? I don't know. Very, very strange. And of course, those are the kind of questions that are way out of my pay grade, but I still think about them anyway, because reality is just dynamic. It's fluid. It's ever changing. And I think that, like Chris and Cherie on Beyond the Veil are talking about the divine consciousness. And I think that that's a great term. I think it's very powerful. And as divine consciousness, and I believe that we have this, that we are divine consciousness, that, as in the spirit of divinity, what can we do? What is the limit? Is there any limit on it? And I personally don't believe there is. I think there's only limits on our awareness. The ghost obeyed my father's request. When I was very young, we lived in a house that had the usual ghost activity, hearing footsteps, hushed voices in the next room, etc. But the really cool thing was the basement door. It would open on its own. I'm not talking about an inch or two. When you closed another room or another door nearby, I mean it would swing fully open like someone was walking through. My parents tried locking the door, and it would still swing open on its own. By the time I was learning to walk, my dad was concerned that I would fall down the steps, so we went down into the basement and just said, to no one in particular, that he had a young daughter upstairs, and could they please be careful with the door. Ever since then, the basement door would open and then slowly shut on its own. Very cool. I saw the name attributed to the person that wrote it. Oh, God. Parent, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, because I always try to keep the show family friendly, but their username is Pocket Full of Dildos. Oh my God. How do you expect to be taken seriously with a name like that? I don't know, but you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. The next one is, we were all yanked up by something unseen. Camping in the desert in Utah, I was a wilderness guide and lived out of my truck, so camped nearly every night. So totally used to weird noises, twigs cracking, whatever. But one night it was extremely calm and quiet, just a weird vibe in the air. A couple of friends and I were on BLM land in Utah, near Moab, and we had just put out the fire and laid out our bags out. Just as I was starting to fade out, something grabbed me by my wrists and jerked my arms straight up into the air. I sat up immediately, and two of my friends bolted up at the same time. We all had it happen to us, and we couldn't explain it. Nothing else happened, but it still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up when I think about it. Yeah, that's weird. That don't sound like your typical camping. That there's a different kind of camping. Wonder where they were camped. Was it sacred land? I don't know. A ghost warned me and my sister to be quiet. When I was about 12 and started getting left alone at home, something used to shush me. I'd be pouring cereal, singing along to the TV, and suddenly, shh. First time it happened, I absolutely crapped myself and didn't say a word until someone came home. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't think anyone would believe me. I'd even start to convince myself it was just my imagination, but then it would happen again. I think it happened about 5 or 6 times. One Saturday morning, I was in the top bunk. The beds were super noisy, and the slightest of moves would result in them creaking. Shh. I thought it was my younger sister and decided to annoy her a little further. I started rocking about in my bunk, making as much noise as I possibly could, and suddenly, shh. I chuckled, thinking it was my sister, and then she whispered nervously from below, "Was that you? The shushing, was that you?" I popped my head down and said, "No, it was you." She looked terrified. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she said, "No, it wasn't." Then she ran out of the room crying and wouldn't come back in for a long time. I realized it must have been the shushy ghost and was overcome with relief that I wasn't crazy, because someone else had actually heard it too. I heard footsteps running toward me. I just started working at a lab in August. Since I started, my coworkers have told me all about all sorts of paranormal activity that has happened in the lab. I listened to their stories but never put much stock in them. One day, about 3 months into the job, I was late setting up a specimen and ended up staying behind while everyone else left. The hood I was using was in a corner, and I couldn't really see anything except what was right in front of me without turning my chair. Out of nowhere, I heard and felt footsteps rushing towards me. The lab is on the 3rd floor of a 4-story building, and the rest of the building is completely unoccupied. And a gust blew past me. I turned to look, and there was nothing and nobody there. That's a horrible thing to do. I think these spirits must have a hilarious sense of humor, but it's only hilarious to them because they know that they know the joke. That's an underwear scraper right there. I don't know. You just got to imagine they're just sitting around going, watch this, which I also think happens here in the studio. With some of the weird crap that's happened, it's just like, my God, they just got to be sitting around here in a group going, watch this. The story of my life. My nephew saw the ghosts of children. A few years ago, my sister was married to a soldier in the British Army, and he was stationed in Germany. We all visited her, and she knew I was interested in history, so for a day out, we visited Belsenbergen, the former Nazi concentration camp. As we were walking around, my sister was pushing the pram with my nephew in it. He was 1 or 2 years old at the time. The thing about Belsenbergen is that after the way, it was burnt to the ground, so it's more or less blank fields. As we walked, we passed a tree when my nephew asked my sister who the kids were behind us. We all turned around and no one was there. My sister asked which kids, and he replied, the ones in the pajamas. Yet again, no kids anywhere to be seen. We all knew for a fact that he has no idea what country he was in, yet let alone knew about the horrible events which occurred at that camp. Yeah, that's horrible. A ghost was hidden in my house. They're usually pretty well hidden, I think. This story, let's see. When I was in high school, the days before cell phones were common, my friends were to come over to pick me up from my house one night. We had made plans at school for them to pick me up at about 7 p.m. At 6, my parents said I had to come with them to do something, and I totally forgot to call my friends and tell them. They came to my house at 7 p.m. and called the house phone. No one answered. There was 4 of them in the car, and they all told us the exact same story. They said that they were about to pull out of my driveway, but they saw someone peek through the blinds from the bedroom on the top floor right. That was my room. So they assumed that I was around. 5 more times. They said that someone would peek through the blinds, and a couple of them said they even saw the person's eyes. We got home at probably 7:10 or 7:15, and they were still in our driveway. One of my friends came over and said they thought I was messing with them, but then they asked me, "So who's staying in your room?" I told them that no one was. So they asked, "Who's home at your house right now?" Again, I told them no one. Their stone-cold faces then told me that they had seen repeatedly over the last 15 minutes. At first, we all thought there was a burglar in the house or something, so we called the cops. They came over and inspected the house, and there was 0 signs of break-in. Nothing was touched, and nothing was stolen. Our house had an alarm on it, so there was no way someone could have come into our house without setting off the alarm. My family, my friends, and the cop all kind of stood around for a few minutes trying to make sense of the situation. My friends swore up and down, and still do, that they couldn't have imagined what they saw. All 4 of them saw the same things, and it wasn't particularly a dark night, so their eyes wouldn't be playing tricks on them. To this day, none of us can make sense of the situation. I think that'd be I don't know what you feel about something like that, right? So you don't even know anything's going on in your house, but then you're not there, and somebody comes over to pick you up and claims they see you peeking out of the blinds. I mean, do you even sleep anymore in that room? I mean, how's that work? Oh, God. My dog said goodbye to me before he died. I was in basic training at Fort Knox, and we were on a very long road march when, out of nowhere, this beautiful yellow lab with no collar that looked exactly like my dog at home comes up to me and walks beside me, of all people, for a few minutes before running back into the woods. This was a big boost to me because you needed to finish the march as one of the requirements to graduate, and I was dragging ass due to the stress fractures in my feet. I was able to finish, and we earned some phone time to call home, where my mom informed me that they had to put my dog down. She was sick before I left, and they were hoping she could hold on another week, but she just got too bad. When that dog came up to me, it was literally out of nowhere, and there wasn't any houses around for miles. One of the things her and I loved to do was to go on runs together, so I like to think that was her coming up to me and saying goodbye. Wow, that's a great story. I believe that my old German Shepherd has visited me in my dreams. And again, they're very vivid dreams. I can't quantify that with anything other than the fact that it feels incredibly real, very lucid. Now, the distinction is that I usually don't remember my dreams. I just don't remember dreams at all. And very, very occasionally something profound will happen in a dream, and I can remember those. But these dreams, it's been about 2 or 3, and she's been gone now for, I don't know, maybe 5 years, 6 years, maybe 5 or 6 years she's been gone. So she was a beautiful German Shepherd. Her name was Xena, named after the warrior princess. Now, I did not name her. She came named because she was a year old when I got her, but she was named Xena because she was the first puppy in the litter to bark, and she was a girl. So that was about the time that the warrior princess was the big thing. So, but she was an amazing dog, and we had a real close bond. She was just amazing in so many ways. She was like a nanny to my children, who were, at that time were young. I still have one young one, but at that time I had the other two, and they grew up with her, and she was really protective of them. It was just a great thing. But she got old. She lived to be about 14 years old and just got really old, and you could see it in her eyes that she still had the spark, but her body just quit on her, and so she laid down one night, and I woke up in the morning and she had passed. And it was, very, very heartbreaking, because you love your pets, you love your animals. They just get right into your heart, and I don't know, it's like with a dog, it's like a perfect love, right? They never get angry at you. They never do anything except love you and accept you no matter what. And so she was gone, and it was tough, and it was quite a while. But maybe a couple years after she died, I had the first dream. And I don't know that I was thinking about her or anything, but suddenly I was in my old house, and she was there, and I was petting her, but I realized that she had passed. And I was really happy to see her, and she was really happy to see me, and it was just one of those things. We were just in this overjoyed moment, and then suddenly she looked at me and had this look in her eyes like, I gotta go. And she started walking away, and I was calling her like, no, you stay here, come here. And she wouldn't, and she couldn't. She kept looking back and then walking further and looking back, and it was really, really heartbreaking, because I didn't want to separate from her. And I just remember that I've got to really call really demandingly, like I used to when she'd run off. I'd be like, Xena! And I woke myself up screaming, not screaming like terrified, but just that loud yell, calling her back. And I actually woke my wife up too, which wasn't a great moment for her, but yeah, it was just a very, very profound dream. Do I believe it was real? Yeah, I really do. I think that their spirits are bound to us, not only in life but after. And I love that story of the Rainbow Bridge, that they wait on this side of the Rainbow Bridge so that they can cross over with us when our time comes. And if you haven't heard it, look it up. It's a great, beautiful story, and maybe there's some truth to it. I don't know, but yeah, it was a very profound dream, and it's happened just a couple of times, maybe 3 times total. But each time it's just so lucid and it's so real, and I can feel her fur and everything. It's not ethereal at all. It's like real. And then of course they're over, but it just makes me think that she's just stopping in every once in a while, reminding me that she's still around. So those are great stories. And we've done shows on the portal here about pet encounters, ghostly pet encounters, and most often they are just wonderful stories of people loving animals and then having encounters with them. And we actually got a call in, and I don't remember who called in anymore, but it was one of our listeners from California called in and shared a story about their dog, and that actually after it passed, he saw it in its old dog bed while he was awake. It wasn't a dreaming experience. It was like he saw it laying there and passed by it, and it stayed there. And then I think it was the realization came afterwards. He's like, wait, the dog's not still here. And he turned, and then of course it was gone, but he saw it there, and it was there, and seemed to acknowledge him. And maybe he was given vision for that brief moment, that maybe the connection of those two hearts. I don't know how it all could work. I mean, there's so many explanations or attempted explanations at these things, but why do we see spirits sometimes and then not others? I don't know, but it was just a really, really amazing story. And a great call-in when he did share that. And I haven't heard from him for a while. I hope he's doing good, but it was really cool stories. And lots of more. I know a longtime listener, Ken, has been a dog lover his whole life, and he's got some great stories about his dogs as well that he shared with us here on the portal. So there's always something. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the last break of the night here on the portal, and then we will continue for the last half hour after we come back. And then, of course, make sure if you're listening on TFR, iHeart, or TuneIn, you stick around for Jimmy Jean Into the Microcosm, which will be following us. And if you're on YouTube, just make sure that you're liking, subscribing, clicking the bell, and doing all that cool stuff. So we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away. We'll be back for more of the Portal Mayhem. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the last half hour of our show tonight. Hope you've been enjoying it. I've certainly enjoyed bringing it to you, and I think it's really reassuring to know that everything's working again, and I'm still conscious here, so life is good. Life is good here in the portal, so we got that going for us. And thanks, you guys, for being here. I just love all the participation, and I've been checking out the YouTube chat as well as the TFR chat. I can mostly do it on breaks, but I really love the dialogue going on. I mean, there's a great conversation in the YouTube chat about what makes reality and of the five senses, and what if it's just one sense and our brain divides it, and it's very cool, very in-depth, and really intriguing. I just love those kind of conversations because I'm not a superficial person and I have trouble in day-to-day life just creating conversation with people based on small talk. To me, I'd so much rather at any point, at any time, if I'm going to talk to somebody, to talk about things that are profound and have deep meaning than to waste time talking about, oh, you catch the news and let's talk about the weather, and so I always try to steer conversations to more meaningful reaction and interaction, because I mean, if you got the time, you got the chance to share thoughts and ideas with somebody, do you really care what they think of the news? I mean, is that, I suppose there's meaning and stuff on news as well, but at least some, if you can believe what's on the news. But you know what I'm saying? It's just, do you want to talk about the latest episode of the Kardashians, or do you want to talk about what is the senses? What do they mean? What if we have so many more senses that we're just maybe going to become aware of? What is the idea of transcendence consciousness and transcending the physical realm that we are born into, and can we exist more completely? I mean, those are conversations that I live for. I just love to think so far into things because, I certainly learn a lot through those interactions because, and from surprising sources. I mean, I've learned some of the most profound things in the universe from a mechanic, or a guy that's mowing a grass, or somebody mowing their lawn, or you know what I mean? It's like you don't have to go to a university to be exposed to profound truths. I think that we all have them. I've heard profound truths in comic books and in sci-fi movies, and it's the truth is out there, and you just got to go get it. And so I love those kind of interactions. So you guys and not to just take away anything from the TFR chat as well. Those guys are always amazing in there. But I just like the conversation you guys are having in YouTube, and thanks for being a part of the show. And I've enjoyed reading it when I got a chance. But I love y'all. I mean, it's hard not to love that, all you guys are tuning in to hear what I got to say, or providing you're paying attention. I believe you are, though. In my head, you're all paying attention, hanging on my every word, as it were. All right, that might be in a little bit of delusion there, but we're all having fun anyway. Yeah, I got to learn to fade that crap in, don't I? That was really abrupt. I'm not quite ready for the weddings and DJing dances yet, but good enough here for the portal, ladies and gentlemen. The next story that I'm going to read to you is the movie theater I worked at was haunted. I worked in a really old movie theater for my first job. It was a small theater, 6 screens, and all in a line so you could see from one end of the building to the other end, essentially. Eventually, I got promoted to manager, so I had to start the movies. We had film still, so it was a fairly complicated process of threading the projectors and then watching over them because they screw up easily. We always joked about ghosts. A lot of weird things happened around there, like things falling over, doors shutting, and hearing voices. Well, one day I was there with like one employee, slow midweek day, and I walked out of the office up in the projector booth, and out of habit looked both ways, the old left and right. To my right there was a woman in whitish dress and brown hair, about 4 feet away, just standing there. I only caught a glimpse of her before doing a double take and she was gone. I wasn't the only person to see her. Several other employees claim they've seen a similar woman around the theater, but I never saw her again, so I'm not sure if I just imagined seeing a person or if I did. Stupid ghosts. That's his last line in there. Stupid ghosts. They're not stupid. 3 of us had identical dreams about a murderer. My first apartment after college was in the upper half of an old house. My new roommate had just recently graduated, so he was in no rush to move in. I'd been living with my parents for the past year or so and needed out as soon as possible, so I brought up a sleeping bag over with my last load of stuff on day 1. No utilities, just camping out by myself in the living room. At some point during the night, I had a vivid dream that a killer with a knife was coming down the main hall toward the door to the living room. Just as he was about to open the door, I wake up terrified, shook it off, and went back to sleep. I was talking to my roommate one morning a few months later. He told me about a weird dream he had the previous night. Seems he had fallen asleep in the living room for the first time, and he had a dream that the killer with a knife was coming down the main hall toward the door to the living room. Just as the killer was about to open the door, then my friend woke up. He spent the rest of the night in his own room. I told him about my dream from the first night. We both thought it was weird. A couple of months later, a friend needed a place to crash, asked to stay on the couch for a night. Next morning, he mentions he had an odd dream. Killer with a knife was coming down the main hallway towards the door to the living room. I asked, just as he was about to open the door, "You woke up?" Added my roommate. Look of pure terror on my friend's face was astounding. And that sounds like some kind of a psychic imprint, and I don't know if it's premonition. Are they sensing an act that's going to happen, or was it something that had happened? I guess it would require a whole lot more background to know, but I do believe in premonitions as well as, the idea that people can pick up psychic imprints of past events. But very creepy. I had nightmares until the exorcism. Yeah, that'd do it. So this technically happened to me, but I was a baby and don't remember. My mom told me this once. We were talking about paranormal activity and whether she believed. She had a couple of incidents, but the one with me went thusly. My mom was at home waiting for the HVAC man to come and do something. I do not recall what. My dad was at work and she was alone with me. I wasn't more than 2. The HVAC man had a reputation of being a weirdo. He was weirdly religious and very superstitious, and all the other women in the neighborhood didn't like being home alone with him. My mom figured he was just misunderstood, and she said he was odd but never made her uncomfortable. Now I was having screaming nightmares every night. No one knew why. I was in my own room, which was the first room a child had slept in since the house was built after my sister was born. Mom didn't tell the guy of any of this. So he was checking all the rooms for whatever he's there to do, and he walks into my room and stops dead. He asked my mom if I had nightmares. She said yes, and he told her that the house was built on an Indian burial ground, and we had angered the spirits. They were upset, and that was upsetting me. Mom said she didn't really know what to say, and he asked her if she wanted him to perform an exorcism. Mom told him sure, wouldn't hurt, right? He went to his truck, got his Bible, wandered around my room muttering, she didn't know what, waving the Bible, that sort of thing. After a few minutes, he turned to her and said the spirits were calmed and everything should be fine. He finished his work and went in his merry way. Mom said I didn't have another nightmare after that. She has no idea how to explain it. Yeah, those old burial grounds. I mean, that's the tough part, is that unless you're digging a foundation and you start turning up bones, they literally could be anywhere. And, unfortunately, there's no markers that we know of to identify, oh, don't build your house there. That's an old burial ground. And, the Native Americans, of course, as Naysay and I have talked many times, are very tied to to balance and living in balance with the world. And I'm sure that if there are, I mean, even the modern day ones, of course, and modern day, not only Native Americans, but there are many people that really strive to find that balance again. And I think that's wonderful. But for the most part, our history in this country is not honoring any spiritual traditions at all. And in fact, we were pretty much a bulldozer over the face of this nation. And unfortunately, I think we've probably made a lot of things angry in our time, and it can sometimes require a shaman to come in order to soothe those spirits again, or at least to get them to not rage and haunt your home, or worse. I know that, and oftentimes one of the most basic things you can do is, if you think your home is built upon what might have been sacred ground and you've angered some spirits, you can do things like planting fruit trees with the intention that it is, done as an offering of peace, and it should help in most cases to soothe any angry spirits. Fruit trees are considered a bounty of the land and are sacred, so that is a great offering, great measure to take if you believe you've somehow angered spirits of the land. Just some thoughts, things I've picked up here and there through my journeys. We saw shadow people in the forest. You guys know what shadow people are, right? The name kind of gives it away. They're shadows and also people. Look like a silhouette. You get the idea. Anyway, this is back when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. I'm over at a friend's place, and we go out back in the forest behind his house. We walk through some tall brush. When we went out of the corner of my eye, I see what looks like a silhouette of a head and shoulders rise above the brush. I ignore it, thinking I was just seeing things. A short while later, we're out on a wide trail when something darts across the path in front of us. It looked like a silhouette of a man, hunched over, running from one side to the other, somehow leaving the plants on either side were perfectly intact. My friend turns to me and goes, "Oh my God, did you see that?" I did, and we got out of that forest as fast as we could. We sat at his house terrified, and I mentioned the head and shoulders I initially saw. Turns out he saw them too and just ignored them like I did. What we saw still freaks me out to this day, nearly 10 years later, because we never really knew what we saw. And again, I mentioned this on the shadow people episode that we did. There's often misidentification that true shadow people are very malicious, and by definition of what I understand to be shadow people, are very malicious entities, and they are very, very negative. They apparently feed off of living people, usually the very old and infirmed or the very young. They tend to target those as the easiest, but they're second only to demons in negative hauntings. If you've got shadow people, and according to Amy Allen of the Dead Files, there's no way to get rid of them. I don't know if that's true or not. Again, I'll repeat what I said on that show, in that I believe that they're tied very closely to portals, and so you can probably diminish their presence quite a bit, if not get rid of them, if you can close the portal. If you can close access to that spirit portal that may or may not exist in your area. But most often people equate any kind of human-like shadowy silhouette as a shadow person, and that's just simply not accurate. They can exist as any spirit can appear as a shadowy form, and many spirits do appear as shadowy forms, and that doesn't equate to what we understand as the shadow people phenomenon. But rudimentarily, yes, it does, because they look shadowy and they're shaped like a person. So in rudimentary terms, yes, they are shadow people, but in what I'm equating to as a shadow person, no, they're not necessarily. And in this case, nothing malicious happened other than those children being startled. So I don't know. God. Oh, Anubis, you must miss Don. Anubis is my cat, and he's stretching his claws on my legs as we speak. Don will be here tomorrow. So you can take care of it then. I even bought him a scratching post, but he still prefers the fleshy feel, I guess. We rented a historical haunted house, is the next story. My family had just rent this beautiful historical house that was built around the Underground Railroad era. It had small hideouts and doors where slaves would hide out in. As soon as we moved in, we got uncomfortable vibes from it. We'd hear footsteps coming from the upstairs when everyone was downstairs. The TV would turn off and on by itself, and doors would open and close by themselves. We eventually accepted the fact that we had a ghost and it seemed harmless, so we called her Claudia. Each of my family members had at least seen Claudia once. She was a tall, dark figure who would move fast. Most of the hauntings would come from my bedroom. It was always cold and had an unpleasant smell. My little brother began sleepwalking and would have terrible nightmares. One night became the final straw for my family and our relationship with Claudia. My sister and I were away at our friends while my parents and brothers were home. The whole house was asleep when my dad woke up from screaming coming from my bedroom. When he ran out past the living room where my little brother liked to sleep because of his sleepwalking, he noticed that my brother wasn't there. So he ran upstairs where he met my older brother who had heard the screaming as well, and they both saw that my bedroom door was shut, and they realized that it was my little brother screaming in my room. They both went to open the door. Anubis. But it was like something was blocking it. So finally my dad busted the door down. As the door flew open, a black shadow ran right past him and my brother. He then entered my room that was so cold that he could see his own breath. He looked over at my little brother, who was laying on my bed and covered in sweat and tears. He started yelling his name to wake him up. But my little brother just pointed, still asleep, at the corner of the room and started yelling, "Get her, Daddy, get her." My dad looked over but saw nothing but pitch black. That was enough for him. He quickly grabbed my brother, who was as stiff as a board, and ran the hell out of there. When my brother woke up the next day, he had no memory of what happened that night and still doesn't remember when he talked about it almost 5 years later. We moved out of that house a few weeks after the incident, and my brother stopped sleepwalking as soon as we did. We've heard a few stories from the people who currently live at the house, who currently own the house rather, but nothing quite as terrifying as what happened to my brother or my dad. The house has a great history behind it, but it was too creepy for my family. Are you serious? Oh, he loves my headphone cord. It happened to be dangling on my leg, so of course that's a great place to dig in your claws and grab it. Oh. Fluffy little man. Oh. He's a good boy. Aren't you? This, ladies and gentlemen, is Anubis. Isn't it? Yeah, he's a sweetheart, but it's not a lot of fun digging his claws out of my leg, so... Are you purring? Aw, you big baby. Quit clawing me, please. He does like to get brushed, too. We brushed him today, so he was loving that. There you go. Thank you. All right. Hopefully he's changed his mind about attacking my leg now. Sorry. Had to blow cat hair off the mic. This is a very short story. We saw a spaceship in the sky. Yeah, that's him, Don. That's Anubis. Is it a dog? No, are you kidding? It's a black cat. Drone was working out too hard today. His visions have been affected. We saw a spaceship in the sky. Probably about 9 years ago, some friends and I were hanging out in a field near my house. It was close to midnight, and the two of us were standing around looking at the stars. He pointed one out almost directly above us that was especially bright. At first I thought it was Vega, but it was sort of next to it. Now 3 seconds after he pointed it out, it just blinked out. We both freaked out and left. Yes, that might be enough to make you leave. All right, we got 5 minutes left. It's going fast. I saw an unexplainable creature. I live in northern Georgia, United States. Behind our house, there is a dense forest for about 60 miles. One summer, I was walking along this river for a few hours that goes deeper into the woods. I was about to cross, you little bastard. Oh. I was about to cross the river at a shallow part when I heard this loud whistle, maybe 40 meters to the right of where I would end up after I crossed the water. I've never seen or heard any sign of anyone there before. I whistled back. After about 30 seconds, I heard it again, but from behind me. At this point, I was confused. Then I can smell this terrible stench. It was so pungent, I started gagging. I stop in the center of the river, and that's when I saw it. Yes, it's a Bigfoot. Of course it is. A large, hairy, bipedal creature walking through a clearing about 15 meters from me. It looked at me, and it looked shocked, and the hair on its shoulders stood up. It backed up quickly, then turned around and sprinted. I've only told my dad about this, and he told me that he had seen them before, and not to tell anyone else about them. I never believed in Sasquatch or anything like that before that day. But there is no other explanation for what I saw. Yeah, it's got all the classical symptoms. Of course, whistling is well documented as far as the behavior. In fact, the Native American, my brother used to hang out with Native Americans all the time when he was younger. And he told me that they always told him never whistle in the dark. Never whistle in the dark. And I never knew what that meant until I got into Bigfoot research years later. And then I've seen it brought up many times that that whistling in the dark is one of their ways of nonverbal communication at distances. And others wood knocking. And of course the pungent smell. If you smell the pungent smell, and I've heard it equated to rotting meat, wet dog, and garbage. And just the most foul stench, skunk and rotting meat. There's a lot of comparisons people make about this smell, but it appears to be when they're stressed, they can emit this very strong, pungent odor. And I believe that it's probably a warning sign to stay the hell away, or you're too close. And so if you smell something really rancid and pungent, skunk-like, but worse, then whatever you're doing, back up and go the way you came. But yeah, I mean, this is a very typical Bigfoot encounter. The next one is the cat disappeared into thin air. And so did mine. It's no longer going after my legs, so this is prophetic. When I was much younger, I was sitting with my cousin. I got cat hair on my face. I was sitting with my cousin in our grandparents' kitchen talking when I saw a white cat walk from the basement into the bathroom. My cousin, who'd been spinning around in her swivel chair, turned back to face me, absolutely shocked. "Did you see that? The cat?" "Yeah." We got up and checked the bathroom, but there was nothing there. The basement door had been closed and latched the whole time. I always try to think of an explanation, but I can't. There are reports of cats and dogs haunting places. It's not real common. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that. I don't know. Very strange. But is it possible? Sure, it's possible. It's reported. I've never encountered that phenomenon myself. Apparently these people never owned a white cat. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have made they would have equated it to their beloved pet. But yeah, very strange. The video didn't record the phantom I saw. I'll just be able to get through this one, and that'll be the end of the show. I was working a night shift call center, and it was a slow night, so I was watching Netflix or YouTube or something. We had a camera that looks at the back door, and I saw someone walking down the hall towards where I'm working. Didn't recognize him, but not wanting to get in trouble, I quickly closed Netflix and YouTube. A couple of minutes go by, and I don't see anyone, but notice the door had shut. That usually stays open, so I go and open it back up. I still don't see anyone in the office, so I do a check of the entire building, and no one is around. I get back to work, data entry, and wait for my shift to end and for the other people to come in, thinking somebody might pop up behind me any second. Next shift comes in and I tell my manager. They give me a look like I'm crazy and I leave. The next night I get to work and they tell me they checked over the recording at basically the moment I saw someone walk in, the video froze on a single frame for about 30 minutes. Video starts up again just as the door closes, and shortly after I go open it again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for tonight. I love you all dearly. Thank you for being here. Stick around if you listen on TFR, iHeart, or TuneIn. Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean coming up next. Take care, everybody. See you tomorrow night on The Portal.
Woo!